we need to talk about Charlie Kirk, and we need to talk about the reactions on social media to his death. For those of you that don't know, Charlie Kirk is a right-wing American influencer, famous for founding the organization Turning Point USA and having a podcast and doing a host of speaking events and debates across college campuses. This is someone who was extremely instrumental to the president's election, but he was also a father of 2 young kids, not much older than my own, and a husband to another influencer. Now, what I think needs to be said, because it cannot be said enough, is that while Charlie Kirk and I would probably agree on very little, one thing that we definitely both agree on is the right of everyone to participate in the political process and to exercise their right to free speech. If you don't agree with what Charlie Kirk says, you have the right to say so. But what no one has the right to do is kill someone for their political beliefs. That is the stuff that leads to total collapse of political systems, not just because it silences debate, but because it deters other people, right? So if you don't like what Charlie Kirk says and you say, I'm going to become a Charlie Kirk-like influencer, I'm going to go out and I'm going to use my voice as an American citizen and advocate for what I believe in, well, you are now deterred from doing that because now you say, well, if I do that, what will happen to me? Will my kids grow up without a dad because I chose to say my opinion? And so even though the Constitution only says that the government can't regulate free speech, the principle of protecting free speech is something that is all of our responsibility. Now, of course, my thoughts and prayers go out to his family and to his kids. I mean, anytime you have young kids who are going to grow up without their dad, it breaks my heart, right? But the other thing we have to talk about is the reaction from social media, which has in part been disgusting. I don't know what else to tell you. And let me break it down why. So in some cases, right, most elected officials, almost every elected official that I've seen on the right and on the left have said a version of what I just said, which is that Charlie Kirk was someone that we may have disagreed with, but he had the right to free speech and he definitely had the right to not be killed in cold blood in such a spectacular fashion. And I mean that as a spectacle. They killed him to create a spectacle, right? Gavin Newsom, right? Someone who has been notorious for trolling the right on social media, even said the attack on Charlie Kirk is disgusting, vile, and reprehensible. In the United States of America, we must reject political violence in every form, right? You also have Speaker of the House Hakeem Jeffries saying political violence is never acceptable. My thoughts and prayers are with Charlie Kirk and his family. Even the super left-wing AOC says the scourge of gun violence and political violence must end. The shooting of Charlie Kirk is the latest incident in this chaos, and it must stop. We cannot go down this road. There's no place for it in America, and we wish for his recovery. Now, the problem we get into is that most right-wing politicians have said the same thing, right? President Trump, for example, again, sending his thoughts and prayers out to Charlie Kirk and his family. But there's been another side to this reaction that has been honestly pretty disgusting. And guilty party number one is Elon Musk, right? And here's Elon Musk is just kind of gross, right? So here's his Twitter account, right? Here's his feed, and it's chronological. So you can see here, he retweets someone calling themselves the Fisher King 64. He says the left-wing mainstream media, as well as figures like Gavin Newsom, claiming Trump plans to be a dictator, created a climate of hysteria against right-wing figures that could radicalize any number of unstable people to engage in political violence. Play Charlie Kirk is okay. Elon Musk says, exactly. And then less than 60 minutes prior, Elon Musk says the left is the party of murder, retweeting someone who says that the left lectured us for a decade about the dangers of violence from the right. They say from the assassination attempts on President Trump to the killing of a United Healthcare CEO to Charlie Kirk, the danger was exactly on the left. So saying that your political opposition is the party of murder, well, do you think that could also, I don't know, radicalize extreme individuals? Again, here Elon Musk amplifies the critical drinker, right? Who says, again, the thing that we all agree with, whether you agree with it or not, Charlie Kirk is dead. Well, here's where we disagree. He says Charlie Kirk is dead purely because some people don't like what he had to say. But the part that is, and here Elon Musk continues, retweeting someone named Tim Urban, every post on Blue Sky is celebrating the assassination. Such unbelievably sick people. That says more about your algorithm. And then Elon Musk continues, they are celebrating cold-blooded murder. Who's they? Right? They, of course, Elon Musk is referring to political opposition. So even though literally minutes ago, Elon Musk goes, oh, this rhetoric is dangerous. This rhetoric can push unstable people to do something extreme. Then Elon Musk begins to push and create this rhetoric that the people on the left are murderers, that the left is celebrating cold-blooded murder. This is like absolutely doing the exact thing that Elon Musk says created these conditions, right? Again, he's repeating this, talking about Charlie was shot because he was honest. In America, we can't keep doing this, right? Retreating Dave Sachs, who also repeats this point that what got him killed by an intolerant lunatic was Charlie's like openness and commitment to debate. Right. Dave Sachs says Charlie was winning the debate, and for that he had to be silenced permanently. Our thoughts are with his and prayers. Now, here's my gripe, right? Elon Musk is not alone in doing this, by the way. Here, and listen, I want to show you this. I'm no fan of Mother Jones, but Mother Jones has compiled some of the other like pretty gross things, right? Here's Elon Musk. Again, as we just showed, the left is the party of murder. Here's another one. More people, this is from Laura Loomer. More people will be murdered if the left isn't crushed with the power of the state. Here's another one from Katie Miller, wife of White House Chief of Staff Stephen Miller. She says it's a real threat to see all these liberals condemn political violence now, or a real treat, excuse me. Then she says, you have blood on your hands. Whether we want to accept it or not, this is Jesse Waters, the main host of Fox News. Whether we want to accept it or not, they are at war with us. What are we going to do about it? How much political violence are we going to tolerate? Andrew Tate simply tweeted the word civil war. Chaya Rachik, the owner of Libs of TikTok, simply tweets, this is war. Okay. I want you guys to understand something. Daryl Cooper adds, the left won't stop unless it's forced to. The goal for Republicans the next 10 years shouldn't be to win elections, but to destroy the Democrat Party and salt the earth underneath it. That's from William Wolf, a Christian nationalist influencer. So here's what I think is really important. Okay. The FBI's official Twitter account says, we don't have a clue who did this and why. We're still working on it, right? The FBI is working alongside state and local partners in Utah to fully investigate and seek justice in the fatal shooting of Charlie Kirk. Anyone with information, photos, and videos from the incident can help the FBI identify more answers by sharing files at tips.fbi/digital media. Now, here's what I want to point out. Do you notice what the FBI didn't say? The FBI didn't say they know why Charlie Kirk was killed. And this is actually really important because famous people can get killed for a variety of reasons, right? The singer Selena, right, famously got killed because the president of her fan club was embezzling money and she was about to get caught. You look at people like Israeli Prime Minister Rabat or Indira Gandhi, who were killed by extremists within their own ideological wing. So it could be someone who is even far right of Charlie, who looked at what he was saying and said, no, this person's too moderate, right? It could even be someone from a foreign actor, right? Someone either sponsored by or in alliance with a literal foreign government. Someone who says, hey, this person is engaging in a lot of rhetoric that is damaging to our government's efforts. We need to take him out. And right now, we don't know what the answer is, right? Because, again, generally with terrorist violence like this, and it is terrorism, it comes with a political message, right? A random terror attack is never as effective as when you sit there and you leave a manifesto or a statement or something grand to project your message, right? Otherwise, it's just pointless violence, which again, It could also be. It could be something that is, the motive could be something totally immaterial, right? It could be literally a man who believed Charlie Kirk was having an affair with his wife, or literally a man who believed that Charlie Kirk was, the man was being instructed by angels or demons to do this act. We don't know. And so when you see this kind of statement where literally the FBI is confirmed, we don't know who did it, so we definitely don't know why it was done. The assumption that everyone is making here, that this is political violence, and the other grave assumption, which is that this is political violence sponsored by or enabled by a particular political party in the United States, is also extremely dangerous, because the point of free speech is that people can have these kinds of debates. As we point out, that the idea that there is a political branch of the United States who is engaging intrinsically in violence and must be stomped out as a political movement because of what they attribute, this attribution, is actually disgusting. And again, even at odds with what Charlie Kirk himself did, who constantly engaged with these people, right? He engaged with all people across all political walks of life. So again, and here's what I want to point out also, one of the far left news channels, MSNBC, fired one of their hosts for having a pretty moderate, a inappropriate take, but a far cry from the we're at war with the left. He doesn't say things like we're at war with the right. He simply says that Charlie was a divisive figure who he used the word hate speech, which again, in America, we probably shouldn't, that's not really a good concept, aimed at certain groups, right? He says hateful thoughts lead to hateful words, lead to hateful actions. And, again, arguing with a lot more words that Charlie Kirk deserved it because he said no things is anti-American, full stop. So, but he got canned, right? So clearly the mainstream left or whatever being responsible for this is tough to really argue. Now, here's a couple of other things that I think are important, because Elon Musk is going to tell you that there's all this data that says that the left is the perpetrator of political violence. But that is Elon Musk existing in his own algorithmic rabbit hole. He cherry picks examples. And here's what I want to point out, right? They say, oh, look at the example that Elon Musk cited was actually the assassination, right, of President Trump, or attempted assassination of President Trump. And look here. Here's the Wikipedia article about the perpetrator. Perpetrator, by a statement from Trump's own FBI director, described Crook's activities on social media as anti-Semitic, anti-immigrant, extreme, and espousing political violence. They point out that he registered as a Republican at 17, but then made a $15 donation to a voter turnout group that was affiliated with the Democratic Party, right? The FBI reported and uncovered a social media account believed to be associated with the shooter, and about 700 comments made over the course of 2019 to 2020. But again, some people say they were in favor of Biden's immigration policy. That's from the CEO of the platform, Gab, that he was operating on. But again, the FBI director says they were extreme and skewing slightly to the right. Again, anti-Semitic, anti-immigrant, extreme political violence. That is not clear, but generally those are kind of right of center talking points. And the motive that's at least been pushed out so far is that the FBI, the leading theory, is actually that Crooks just did it for attention. He just said, I want to go out with a bang. They said he looked at just big events, right? And that it just so happened that the Trump rally was the closest event. So again, is it fair to say that that was a targeted violence by the left? Probably not, right? And when you look at, for example, other assassinations, other political assassinations, like the shooting of the Minnesota legislatures, right? Melissa Hortman, her husband Mark, as well as Minneapolis State Senator John Hoffman and his wife, right? Right. These were, of course, Democratic affiliated legislators. The motive is, again, unclear, but Mr. Bolter, the perpetrator, had what he described as pretty strident anti-abortion views, was a registered Republican at least 20 years ago, and seemed to be a strong supporter of President Trump and against abortion rights. So he also reportedly had a list of abortion providers, a target list including pro-abortion advocates and lawmakers in Minnesota, Wisconsin, and other states. Walz was reportedly a target, as well as a bunch of U.S. representatives and senators, Minnesota Attorney General, right? But he also had a stack of flyers for a No Kings anti-Trump protest, which it's unclear if he was going to attend, believe in them, or if he was actually, police said they believe Bolter may have intended to target the protests, causing them to be canceled. But people with knowledge of a letter addressed to the FBI, Bolter said that Governor Walz instructed him to kill these officials and Klobuchar to allow Walz to run for her Senate seat. People with knowledge of the letter said it was rambling, incoherent, and conspiratorial. So again, to sit there and say the left owns political violence, the right are these nice guys that never do anything wrong, it's just not true, right? We live in a very, very politically decisive world, and it is really disingenuous, right, to turn around when you see people, particularly people like Elon Musk, who have huge amounts of authority, and literally own a social media platform, promote this idea that like the right wingers are reasonable and the left wingers are extremists, like is pretty gross. And again, I'll be the first to tell you that if you're looking for someone who promotes extreme views, you got to admit that I don't know, like the president also is out there advocating for, going to war with Chicago. Like, let's see if we can find this. Again, we can't, let's see, it's buried in here somewhere, right? Changing the name to the Department of War. Let's see if I find it. Oh, maybe he deleted it. There we go. Here we go. So again, this isn't me saying that there's a causal link, but when my argument is simply that the rhetoric in America has escalated dangerously on both sides. And it is really disingenuous to say that, hey, one side is, as Elon calls it, the party of murder. And one side is completely innocent and simply trying to govern America in this reasonable, way. And it's also unfair to even argue that we know why Charlie Kirk was killed and that there is a specific ideology that pushes political violence exclusively. It's just not true. And when you use that kind of rhetoric, as we've just documented all these folks are doing, you risk empowering the next unstable person to try to do this sort of thing. So that's all I have. You can hit the subscribe button if you want. I always appreciate it. But yeah, most important thing, man, just be decent to each other. That's my biggest ask. See ya.